Okay, Joe, day one. We finally arrived. I think you've unpacked.
Yeah.
First impressions.
Yeah, in a way, I was, as we were driving, I was kind of going through my head the enormity of the country and seeing that there's no industry. The only infrastructure you've got is there is some electricity in some areas, and you've got this actually quite good road we were on, surprisingly.
Yeah.
But everywhere along it is just little huts and tiny little brick built buildings where every 3 or 4 individuals have obviously got some little enterprise that they are trying to make money with. I don't know who's buying any of it, because all the person, it seems to me the only people that are loitering around are the other people that are also trying to earn a living. So I can't see how it works, because there's no external money coming in order to make that work. So it's all well meaning, but I can't quite get how really they move from that stage they're in at the moment to kind of more serious economic production. And it needs capital, that's the truth, isn't it? It needs the infrastructure, which I guess they've got electricity. They probably haven't really got water, which is a bit of a problem, which I guess makes industry difficult, because you probably need the power and you need supply of water, etc. But it just, yeah, it did. I found it in a way quite overwhelming, because I thought, oh, what we're doing here is Soroti is brilliant, but I thought as a country as a whole, if you committed your life to work in a place like this, every time you drove, say if you work in Soroti and you did 8 hours, you'd make a difference here, and yet you'd feel this huge gulf between what you've achieved in one tiny area, but you spent 8 hours looking at the same thing replicated, and you need a million projects, like what's here, to make, that massive impact. And I know you still change lives here, but that's what struck me, was just like, my goodness, I mean, how does, what should it change to as well? I mean, I think in a way I'm puzzled by it, and I suppose part of me is what I expect, and part of me is actually quite troubled by it, because it's that huge question that I was thinking beforehand, and now I've seen it to some extent. The question remains even more vivid, like how do we help more people in a direction that makes sense for them? And because I asked Michael, I said, look, what do people do in terms of enjoyment and happiness? Even if we sorted out some of the food, and we sorted out maybe like supply of water for loads of people, what do? I mean, they don't go to cinema. I think their art, a lot of them, to kill their time, they brew. They'll make their equivalent of like Ugandan moonshine. And it's kind of sad really, if actually all you do is give them more time to be more bored, more aware of what they're doing. I mean, maybe, in a sense there's nothing else on offer, maybe it's just as well it takes a while to get, as long as they get fed and watered, maybe it's a good job, it does take a while, and as long as it's clean and whatever, the water. Yeah. Because the time that's taken to do that takes them away from what would otherwise be almost greater despair, and not having anything to do and nowhere to go. Because sometimes the more you think about something, as I'm talking now, you start thinking about things. So I mean, that's kind of a lot of waffle, but it's complicated. There's a lot of complicated things going on in my head, and there were beforehand, and I think it's still true. So I'm not like I've walked in and I've seen a shaft of light. It's what I thought it would be, and the challenge is as big as I thought it would be, and my response to it is probably, if I was honest, what I thought it would be.
Which is
that it's a gritty reality. It's not like I had this, like I say, this shaft light that said, look, part of me wants to run away and never come back again, because it's just easier. It would be easier. Yeah. I feel so different than the people, because we come from such a privileged background. When we're in the towns, I wouldn't say I felt, maybe slightly intimidated, but I felt so different, so absolutely conspicuous. I mean, obviously these kids see, people do see white people from time to time, but we're the only ones there, and we hardly saw anybody. I mean, from the drive from Cairo to all the way to Soroti in 8 hours, we saw a couple of people at one of the stops, and I think I might have seen one lady at the side of a road and some project or something, and that's it. So, I mean, you know, we're talking about, like, we're not talking about the minority group, you're talking about something that's so intestinal. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at the moment if we could go down to town now, walk down, and we could find we're the only white people in the whole of Soroti, which is fine. It's not like, but I want to be accepted by them somehow. Not as one of them, but not so conspicuous, because what I notice is as soon as they know you're white, then you're a target for money. And I don't want to just be a source of money, I want to be a person, I want to understand them. And how do you get the opportunity to know who they are and what they're doing and what makes them tick if you can't really have that conversation because the difference is so apparent to them? You know, maybe you almost want to be wearing rags or something, you know, I don't know, see them in the dark.
but isn't this really the nature of what we're trying to do, I suppose, with global care, and have a relationship? So, for instance, the sponsored child.
No, that's right.
You know, it's really, you've got to get down to that level.
Michael knows, actually, in reality, the difference between him and us, there's virtually no difference. You know, when it comes to it, you were born in a different place, given different opportunities, but, you know, kind of humans are humans, even for all the cultural differences. Kind of humans are humans, and their aspirations, their desires, and all that kind of stuff are still very, very similar. And I do hope we can explore that with Michael. I mean, he's quite quiet, Michael. I think it sounds like Cosmo is the opposite. he's like the tour guide.
He's the other driver. We came with 2 drivers today.
There's 2 drivers. But I suppose he's paid to do that specifically as a driving job. So I suppose he tries to, you know, by doing that he perhaps wins new business. So yeah, I think that's kind of
A day one synopsis.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing one or two Tom's blogs, and I thought, you know, he was very academic, and they were very, very articulate, and I do feel like I'd love to say something, but I feel it's just going to be like this, just like waffle. And how would you ever put that into a blog in anything meaningful?
Joe, a real man is a man who's real.
Yeah. So, okay,
okay.
that's me. Over and out.